Ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and take a deep breath. Give yourself a pat on the back because you are right here, right now for a reason. Welcome to the On Purpose Podcast, where together we are empowering ourselves and others to live lives with more passion and purpose. How are you doing today, Jerrod?
We're doing great, Ali. If you guys can notice, he does have some food on the table, but it is after sundown, so he's allowed to eat. So we thought we'd mix it up, do one a little later tonight to take advantage of the Ramadan feasting window and get Ali at full strength. So how you feeling, my friend?
Oh, like a new person. It was a long day. Had a little kickboxing over here with my guy Alex. Was my last round of the night, and getting coached up by Jerrod today. And those evenings are typically the toughest when it's a hard workout leading up to that, but overcame it, had a great meal, feeling good.
You're getting close to the end.
Yeah,
week?
Exactly one more week. So next Tuesday will be, next Tuesday will be the last day, and then Wednesday, back to normal.
Nice. So we want to thank everybody who's been sending in their homework, commenting on Instagram, Facebook, or in person. We are truly blown away and humbled by the response we're getting and the impact you're allowing us to have in your lives. And that is not something we take for granted or lightly, and we will continue to evolve and grow alongside of you, and we thank you for allowing us to do that.
Yeah, this growth together is awesome. It's really awesome, and I'm really excited to get into today's topic, which is handling fear. Everybody, even the bravest people, the most courageous people you know have fear. The most brave and courageous just know how to handle it better. So today we're going to talk about fears, how we handle them, and hopefully hear back from you guys feedback about how you do it as well. So,
or more importantly, maybe we hear back from you on fears that are currently holding you up, but now we're going to push through them and move forward, because I think that definition of courage is one I've always really liked, and courage is not the absence of fear. It's moving forward in the face of fear, because we're always going to have fear at some point in our life, whether it's a relationship, a professional move, a career change, challenging ourselves physically. There's always going to be things that scare us. The difference between the people that are going to achieve and those that will stay where they are is they just move forward in the face of fear. Mm-hmm. Right? So I think one of the big things I would tell people is quit looking for fearless days where no fear comes, because quite honestly, if your day doesn't have anything that scares you, you're literally doing the same things you've already been good at.
Yeah.
Right, and you guys know I talk about that a lot on the mat, right? Like, until you get tired, you're already doing what your body was good at doing. Once you get tired, now you're growing. It's the same thing in our life, right? If we're afraid of this, but every time we get to that point where we feel that fear, we back away, or we stay in the comfort zone.
That's good.
Truly get where you want to go, you gotta go, okay, yeah, I'm scared. Now I gotta go. Mm-hmm. Instead of turn around and hide. So quit having days where you want to have no fear. Like, you should want fear, because that's where your growth's gonna be.
Definitely. Well, I'm excited to ask you this, Jerrod, because I know 21 years as a cop, there definitely has to be a lot of moments of fear that really arose. What would you say in your time as a cop was one or a few of just the biggest fears that you had to overcome, and how did you do it?
Well, first off, I think that's a great topic for our law enforcement people. Is it's okay for you to be afraid too, right? Like, sometimes cops, it's part of our job. Like, and I just had this talk today. It's kind of funny this came up, but nobody calls the cops to have them show up at the house and be like, oh my God, this is so terrible. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, that's not an acceptable response. So even if we're afraid, even if it's emotionally hard for us, you have to put up these walls and these barriers to kind of hide your fear. So I think one of the big things for law enforcement is we got to get better at talking about things that cause fear or hurt us. And I'll tell you, probably the most impactful thing for me and the most scared I'd ever been, we had a murderer up when I was working in Montana. We had a murderer in the jail. He had brutally murdered one of our homeless folks, and he had been on the run for years, and it was kind of a cold case, and they caught him. Well, he started the jail on fire, and so he's an inmate. He's on trial for murder. He hasn't been convicted yet, but he's the reason we caught him is he had murdered somebody in Seattle or Washington somewhere, and the DNA linked him back. So it was a cold case. So it was a big deal. And I'll never forget, he lights the jail on fire. So there's smoke everywhere. So now we got to evacuate all these inmates. And I don't think the person listening to this story is probably watching our podcast, so I'll share this. But everybody's out except him. He refused to come out. Right? This dude's a murderer. And we still have an obligation to protect him, right? We can't just let him burn up, whether he's a murderer or not. And he refuses to come out, so now we got to come in.
Wow.
And I remember looking at one of the other officers, and he flat refused to go in.
Mm-hmm.
And I could tell, like, fear had gotten him and put him in a place where he was panicked,
Mm-hmm.
right? He couldn't act. So I remember, I'm sure I had somebody else, but I don't remember who went in with me. And I remember coming in and, like, crawling in the smoke and laying down and yelling. The kid's name was Derek. Yelling at him, like, Derek, you've got to come out. Like, this is as far as I'm going to get you.
Mm-hmm.
Because I knew if I went into that cell, like, he had set this whole thing up.
Yeah.
And so I remember that was like, ooh, this is, like, all the training I've ever done, this is the moment. And thankfully I was able to get him out. And then they interviewed him later when they were talking to him about why he started the fire and stuff. And he admitted that his intent, because he knew he was going away for life, his intent was to get an officer into his cell and kill them, because then going to prison for life, he'd have elevated status because he had murdered a police officer instead of a homeless guy.
Mm.
So that was probably, honestly, like, even just telling that story now, I still remember that feeling.
Wow. Yeah.
But what can you do? Like, I can't not go. I'm scared. But I'm not going to stop and stay out and do something I know is wrong.
Do you remember what went through your head in that moment? Like, how did you handle that fear? Because I'm sure you were probably just as scared too.
For sure.
Because that one petrified guy, looking at him, that probably made you even more fearful. Like,
no, it just made me realize, like, I can't be that guy.
Right.
Right. Like, I have to go, and so do you, but I can't make you go. Like, and honestly, if you're that scared, you got to stay out here.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's kind of that call, while drastic and very dark in some areas, I think it's kind of a microcosm of how I live life. Like, I get to places that are scared. I'm not afraid to move forward.
Yeah.
So I don't. So I guess here's how you handle that. You prepare for it.
Right.
You stay in good shape. You train hard. You have the right mindset.
That was the moment you had.
And that was the moment I had trained for. So to me, instead of being like, yes, I'm afraid. Yes, I don't want to go in and fight with a murderer in a smoke-filled jail any more than you do. But all my preparation led me to this point. And I think there's a lot of people out there, you know, in our military and our law enforcement, that would feel bad if they weren't on that call, right? Like, maybe it had been my day off and I wasn't there, and somebody that didn't take some of the preparation as seriously as I did had to go in there and got murdered. I'd have been like, damn, it should have been me. Like, I trained for this. Mm-hmm. So I think back in that moment, I remember looking at the guy who was terrified and wasn't moving, and like thinking, like, okay, this is exactly why I do what I do. Like, I have to go in there. It should be me, because I knew I had the greatest chance of winning.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you face fear in those moments through your preparation prior to the moments. You don't wait till you're face to face with it to hope you had worked out, to hope you had mentally prepared. And I think it's the same in life, right? If something comes to you and makes you afraid, but you know you've done all this work to prepare, now it's just a calculated risk.
Yeah.
If you're afraid and your fear feeds off of your lack of preparation, now you're just hoping for a good outcome. And in law enforcement, I don't like to use the word hope, because we should always be preparing to the point we stack the odds in our favor.
I gotcha. Wow.
Right?
It's a great story. I've never heard that one.
No, it's not one I talked about a lot. Actually, I had to think about that. It's but I think it parallels to a lot of life, to be honest with you. We're all going to face moments of fear. Some of us will move forward, some will be paralyzed, and some will retreat.
Right.
And I think really the biggest difference is in your preparation.
So let's talk about a subject that may be a little bit more relatable to some of our listeners that aren't in law enforcement, like that was a moment that you had been training for. How about fears? How about a fear of yours that you can remember that you weren't prepared for? Maybe something that caught you off guard, that was a fear of yours to where you didn't even know it was something you would have to prepare for.
Man, that's a good one. Well, let's see, what do you think on that one? Because you have a great example of fear in your business world.
A big fear that I overcame?
Yeah, let me think about that, a fear that I didn't know about.
Okay. Yeah. I can speak on a big fear that I overcame in business, which was to leave my career that I had went to college for, that my parents had primarily spent most of their money for. I spent my money too to get this degree, and then completely leave that, a really nice paying job industry, leave that to take a risk and from oil and gas, very conservative industry, to cannabis. And I was really scared to share that knowledge, to speak to people about it. My family, I sugarcoated it as best as I could at first, and it was scary, especially after it was a few months that I was like, oh shit, we're not really making money yet. I'm still going more in the negative, depleting savings, and I had a lot of doubts. So that this was a different type of fear, right? Than that, like in the moment, it was a long drawn out fear of, is this gonna work? I had to choose day in, day out to overcome that fear and to trust that this was the right thing to do, even though so many things were pointing the other way. Literally, we weren't making sales for a while. We were spending money on marketing, spending more money, and I only had just about when my savings ran out is when we were able to start paying ourselves a little bit.
So I think there's a contrast in our examples, right? My fear was physical fear. Like there was a legitimate physical threat in front of me. And we're naturally wired, you've heard this time and time again, right? Fight or flight. All humans have it, right? When they're presented with a threat, you will either fight back or you will run. It's the animal in us. But that was just a moment for me. So it was very present. I knew exactly what I was afraid of. In your example, what were you afraid of? Because there wasn't much danger.
Mm-hmm.
You were still coming home at night, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what was it that fed your fear? What made you fearful of telling people about it and making the leap?
Fear of what people would think. Fear that if I failed and if people knew what I went to, that I wouldn't be able to get another job. So fear of security, right? Having that backup plan. And then also fear of missing out. I felt that here I spent time getting my degree and I'm taking a risk. What if I do miss out and the good decision was to stay in oil and gas and this is all a bust, right? Fear of missing out. And I actually did have somewhat of a fear manifest. So two of my best friends, my best friend in high school, my best friend in college, were also both of my most intelligent friends that we always talked about being in business together. We always talked about creating an empire together. So much to the point to where one of my buddies, he created like bios for us and pictures and like surprised us and like all of our roles and everything. And we were talking about getting either building an empire in oil and gas or in cannabis. And one of my good friends was working in Dallas and the other one was in California. I got the job in Colorado and I was able to get my friend in Dallas a job with me. So we were just business partners, killing it day in, day out, crushing it. And I had always been the leader of the group. And there came a point to where when I decided shortly after to go my own path and start B-Nails that I told them, you know, guys, I want to do my own thing, right? I'm going to go my own separate path. And they, months and months later, became business partners in the oil and gas industry, and they became millionaires. They both each own over $1 million houses. They're 28 years old. I mean, crushing it like by far more than any of my friends. And I remember going to their houses and being like, damn, like they fucking made it, they killed it, and having kind of that, a little bit of that like negativity and thoughts, and just knowing that could have been me with them, it was tough, you know, going there for the first time and just knowing that like, wow, like I was the leader of this whole thing of like building this empire together. And in the oil and gas industry, I got my buddy a job in oil and gas, taught him how to be an oil and gas layman, and then here they are, literally like 100 times my net worth. You know, they made a lot of money, and that was something that manifested. But after it happened, it was like more, and not like it is my primary why, but more motivation to be successful, right? To do that because I saw that they had, and what level that they had achieved financially. I was like, wow, that's awesome. But it just goes to show you that sometimes when you think about like a fear that you have, and like, okay, what if it happens? Like, what if somebody that you didn't think could achieve as much as you, like, achieve more than you? It's okay, right? That the world's gonna go on. So
yeah, and I think that's a fear a lot of our listeners can relate to, is the fear of what other people will think, and it paralyzes them, right? I meet so many people that want to be doing other things in life, but they're so afraid of, well, what will they think? What will they say? What if I'm not good enough? What if I fail? And that's giving too much power to all the what ifs, because you don't know. What if you're great? What if you're fantastic? And yeah, so for you, it came to fruition, right? Like, you took this leap, they went on and became very successful, and now you're like, I'm still grinding at it. I'm still working at it. But it's on your terms. And there's some peace and happiness to be found in that. You know, and it's not tied monetarily. So I think that's a great example for people on how do we face fear and move forward. And for you, I like it because one of your worst fears was, what if they're successful and I'm not? It became real.
It was more, what if I'm making the wrong decision,
right?
Not if they were successful and I'm not, because I knew they were going to be successful. Like, they're my best friends, smart guys, knew they were going to be successful. But the fact is that they were in a position to where they could get financially much more successful much quicker. And to see that level of success, to go to his $1.5 million house with a badass pool and theater and everything, just be like, damn. You know, one of my buddies bought this like special edition Range Rover with a damn cooler in the damn thing. And you know, we all went out and they were just dropping money like crazy. And I was just like, damn, like, this is awesome, you know. But it was more of a motivator. And I didn't feel like I was missing out, right? But I had the fear around it.
Yeah, and I think that's important, right? Because it's easy to see that and decide you need to fall back to what you used to do, instead of staying on the path of where you want to become. It's interesting to me how fear plays out, because I think on the flip side too, sometimes people will not take a chance they know they should take. They won't take a risk they know they should take. They won't actually move forward because they're afraid of being too successful, right? They're afraid of being too good at something.
So I've heard that before. What does that mean exactly?
Well, I think here's the best example I think of. How many times, let's say you, how many times have you sat in a class, and this may not happen to you because you speak up a lot, but you've known say go back to your school days, you know the answer, the teacher is looking for somebody to give the answer, and you will intentionally not share the answer.
I feel like I've done that.
Right, and why do we do that?
To not like look too good.
We don't want to be embarrassed, right? They're gonna call us a nerd. They're gonna say, kiss ass, whatever they're gonna say. Or go to your work setting now. Your boss gives you a job, and you're way ahead of the deadline, but the rest of the team, maybe your peers doing a similar job, are lacking. Do you turn that in way ahead of time, or do you wait till everybody else turns it in and turn it in as a group? Right? A lot of times we'll hold it and we'll turn it in at the deadline so that everybody else catches up. And I'd argue, why is that? Why are we afraid to be successful at work? Well, a lot of times if you're the go-to employee, How do we reward that go-to employee? Give them more work. Right? Meanwhile, so you're crushing it and you're a week ahead of every deadline. And I come in right on the deadline. Well, what are you doing in that extra week? You're getting new assignments. Right? So sometimes I think we'll allow that fear of, man, I don't want more responsibility. I don't want more assignments, to cause us to pull back and not become our true potential. And I'll tell you, for me, that was a big thing, right? That was a big part of my life as I worked, and I would come home and stay at home. And I wasn't learning anything, I wasn't growing in any manner. I was literally like on autopilot for life. And fighting honestly awoken that in me and rekindled my spirit of like, wait a second, I haven't been afraid of anything in a long time. I gotta go out and make myself afraid of stuff. I gotta get going again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was kind of subconsciously, because humans as animals, we're designed to kind of avoid fear, right? To avoid danger. And you get to a certain place in life where you have enough money, you have enough things, you have a wife, you have kids. It's easy to just kind of get in the autopilot and never realize that, like, wait a second, I could have been that guy. Mm-hmm. If only I would have not taken the easy road. And I think a lot of times you slide, that fear pushes you back into the comfort zone.
Mm-hmm. So what fears do you allow in your life today?
Well, honestly, this was a fear. I had been bugged by friends of mine to start shooting videos and putting out talks, because I was doing a lot of talks in the law enforcement circle, but they were like, maybe once a year I was coming to their town, once a year I was coming to their agency, and they're like, dude, we love this, like, get out there. But I was afraid. What if they don't like my voice? What if I look at the camera wrong? What if I'm making a face? Like, I've always made faces my whole life. I'm a terrible poker player because I can't hide what I'm thinking. So this is a big one for me. Believe it or not, I think sometimes people are like, well, you talk and you don't seem like you mind it. Dude, I get scared.
Yeah.
That speech I did at the Country Music Awards, I was scared like crazy. There was like, I don't know, a couple thousand cowboys out.
You killed that though. I was
scared,
like, damn.
but again, I was scared.
Yeah.
And I went forward.
Right.
Versus being scared, because other people, there was probably more talented speakers in that audience than me.
Yeah.
I just had the courage to go forward.
Right.
So what else do I do that's scary? I signed up for new challenges. I'm gonna run a half marathon in September. Haven't ran 13.1 miles ever, maybe, or at least in a long time, but I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it with my daughter because it's gonna be a challenge for both of us.
Yeah, I've definitely never done that.
So I think, and it's weird because I'm at a stage in life where I actually look for things that are kind of scary, because I know I'm gonna grow.
Right.
When I can look back and tell you that when I was your guys' age, I wasted time being on autopilot, and that sucks. That really sucks to look back and think, dang it, what could I have been doing better then?
Yeah.
But
like you said, everyone has their path and learns their own way, right? Maybe if you were trying to do a lot more at your age, you wouldn't be where you're at now because you weren't on autopilot or learning in that autopilot time.
Yeah, and I think I wouldn't have the perspective. I wouldn't value time like I do, because I realized I wasted a lot of time, and now time is of the essence. So what would you share, Ollie, with our listeners? What is your biggest fear that propels you forward every day? And because I want them to understand fear is good.
Yeah.
And let's quit having fear in this negative light. Fear is not Freddy Krueger. It's not Chucky. It's not any of these movies. Like, fear is good. Fear lets us know we're alive. Lets us know we're about to do something that's important, that we're about to learn. So what is a fear you have, whether it's physical or in your mind or just a spirit feeling you have, that helps propel you every day?
Letting people down.
Yeah.
Letting the people I care about down, whether that's my teammates at trials, whether that's my employees. I'm an employer now. Whether if I don't show up and make sure that the business is going, then people might not have jobs. My Toastmasters club, right? Come in there, tell them every week that, hey, this is the best club on the planet. We're here developing our public speaking leadership skill, letting them down. That's my biggest fear, is not being enough for the people that I'm close to, the people that I care about, letting them down and them not being able to grow or reach that next level because I'm not doing my part. That's my biggest fear.
So how do you balance that?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a big fear, because you have a lot of things going, and you're gonna have some days where, say, trials gets more attention than Toastmasters. So do you have any tips or any strategies that you use that helps you balance out, not going home feeling like you weren't enough, but going home feeling like I gave what I had?
That daily action towards gratitude, really practicing being grateful with energy, right? Whether that's being intentional in journaling like a lot of people do. I like to really vocalize it. I do a thing where I open my sunroof and I yell, "Thank you, God!" at the top of my lungs. I'll be like, "Thank you, God, for the abundance of blessings." I have a whole mantra that I go through, and it starts really basic. I'll be like, "Thank you, God, for the abundance of blessings that you bestow upon me on a daily basis. The ability to see, touch, taste, hear, smell." Very basic, from like just senses to having 2 arms, 2 legs. So I start with that, and then it builds momentum to what I can really be grateful for. When I'm grateful for the abilities that we take for granted, so like the ability to see, the ability to taste, the ability to smell, then it's like so grateful that I have my own business, right? So grateful that I have a vehicle, so grateful that I'm in good health. When I have that gratitude, it's like I'm grateful to even be in the position to help inspire others, right? So it's when you're in that state of gratitude, it's so hard to be in fear. It's so hard to be down on yourself.
And I think you hit on the head. I think that's an awesome point for people, is you've earned your fear, right? Like the things you're afraid of, not being enough for the people that follow you at Toastmasters, not being enough for the people that you train with at trials, not being enough for this group or that group. You've earned that fear, right? Like it wasn't just given to you. They didn't just show up and say, "Hey, we're just gonna follow you around for a while, do whatever you do and we'll do it." Like you worked your way up, so you earned your fear, so now you're grateful for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a big mindset shift that we can all do. Instead of being resentful for the responsibilities, "Oh, these people are counting on me, this group's counting on me, that group's counting," we're grateful for it.
Yeah.
Because you've earned it.
It is. I will
it's
admit.
Literally a shift of mind.
It's easy to get resentful sometimes.
Absolutely it is. Because it takes from you.
Mm-hmm.
It takes your time, it takes your energy, it requires work. Heaven forbid we have to work. Right? It is work to lead people. It is work to move forward and accomplish goals. But I love that. I love being grateful for the fears. And that's exactly one of the things I do every morning is I journal, and I'm grateful for whatever I'm kind of afraid of for that day. Whether I have a business meeting with somebody that scares me because they're higher up in the world than I am. Whether whatever I'm doing that scares me, I want to be grateful for it because it means I've earned the opportunity to move forward to face that fear.
Yeah, that's good. I don't think about it that way, about having something in my day that I fear. I think about it more as like that I'm stressing, but I think I'm going to start thinking about it as fear more, because I like the idea of moving into the fear, right? Of being courageous. I like that idea more than I'm stressed.
And well, think about what is stress. Stress is usually negative on the body, right? Like it's chemical released, it's stress. A lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm stressed." That means they don't feel like they have control over it. So I want control. So I feel fear. I feel excitement. I feel happiness. I feel gratitude. And for me, the big thing I fear, and it pushes me hard right now, it's literally why I made the change from being a policeman for 21 years to doing stuff like this, is I don't want to have regrets. I don't want anybody I'm afraid of people coming to me and going, "Man, you could have been so much more."
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that scares me.
Yeah.
Like, it scares me, and it's very similar to you, right? Like, if you take that, what does that mean? It means I don't want to let you down. That's really what it means. I don't want anybody to think I could have done more with what I had. And I shared a little bit about my mom in some of the previous podcasts, and she's an amazing woman. She did amazing things with us, and I don't want her at the end of her days to ever look at me and go, man, I really wish you'd tried a little harder in life. Like, that's never going to happen.
That's scary.
I'm afraid of that. So I don't have a choice. I really don't feel like anymore. I don't have a choice. I have to go full speed to fear.
Yeah.
Because it's the only way that I guarantee I'm taking care of people around me.
So I think we're all fortunate to be, most people that train MMA have, at least in some realms, that capacity to move into fear, right? To realize that, hey, that's a good thing. What about people that just don't, that avoid fear and don't realize that overcoming fears is such a great thing for you? How do you think, for some of those listeners that are more fear avoidant, we can help them?
I think we gotta be honest. And to me, when you start writing things down, it allows you to take it from an emotion that's just out in the universe and put it on paper, now it becomes a task. So I'd encourage our listeners, if you know you're avoiding fear, if you know there's that thing that scares you that you don't do, write it down. Mm-hmm. And then let's examine, what are we afraid of? Usually what we're afraid of is like the worst possible case scenario, right? So for fighting, the worst possible case scenario is getting knocked out.
Like right away.
Just get knocked out.
Right.
You okay with that? Okay, I'm okay with getting knocked out. Cool. Then what are you afraid of? Everything else that can happen is less than that, right? So examine, what are we afraid of, and what is the worst possible case scenario? And most people are afraid of things that aren't physically going to change their lives, right? They're not afraid of like crossing the crocodile-infused Nile River or something. They're literally afraid of, oh my God, what if I'm not good? What if Ali thinks I'm an idiot? And they literally allow something they don't have any control over anyhow to stop them from moving forward. I think if we write it down and actually look at what are we afraid of, and then break it down, is this a physical fear? Because that's wired into you, that's human nature, right?
Yeah.
Well, there's danger there. Do I attack or do I run? I want that. But if we're afraid of all these imaginary things that may or may not happen, let's start knocking those off our list by taking some action.
Have you heard that science fact that human beings only actually have two fears and everything else is learned? I think it's like the fear of really loud noises and something else. But it literally every other fear besides the two innate fears that human beings have. I think maybe dark and loud noises,
Which is why we invented fire.
Yeah, because you can't see, right? So like dark and really loud noises. I think you might have to fact check me on that, but someone gave a speech on it. Every other fear is learned fear.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree.
So,
and I think that is, you can tie that even back to who do you spend time with? Do you spend time with people that are all fear avoidant and all on cruise control and nobody's learning anything new? Well, that's going to be hard to chase your fears there. Or do you surround yourself with people that are like, hey, dude,
fear addicts.
Let's go.
I'm a fear addict.
Let's see what it is.
Always trying to give speeches, trying to fight, like things that are scary. And it's funny because like when I have a speech for the week, I think of it as like having some stress, right? But no, it's fear. I'm glad you said that because I'm gonna start looking at it as like, no, I just have a little fear around it.
And you own it.
Right.
I think stress, you don't hear people talk about having stress very well, right? Like go work out, watch your diet, get a release. Well, okay. But if is it stress or is it fear? I'm afraid. Like yesterday, I did a talk in front of a couple hundred people, and it was crazy, dude. I started my talk, and it was the why. Like I know my why in life, like the back of my hand. I'll tell anybody anytime about it. And I got up there, I started talking, and all of a sudden, she like reached around from behind me and handed me a microphone, and it threw me off my game. and like I stumbled the next 2 words. And I was literally like, what are you afraid of? It's a microphone. But it startled me, right? Like I was talking to the audience, I had good eye contact, and all of a sudden this thing comes around from behind me. So I'm like, what is this? I grab it, now it's a microphone. But for that moment,
you handled it.
It was fearful. I stumbled a couple words, but I didn't stop and stare and think I was an idiot. I said, yeah, that was different. Let me fix these 2 words and move forward. So fear is good.
Yeah.
Fear is growth, fear is challenge. And let's not avoid fear. Let's figure out what we're afraid of. Why is public speaking the number 1 fear of almost everybody in the world? Has anybody ever died giving a public speech?
I don't think so.
Not that I know of, you know what I mean? Like, what's the worst that happens? You make up words that don't exist, you use them in the wrong context, you get elected president. Like, we've had presidents that give speeches that way. So what are we afraid of? Right? We're literally afraid of what everybody else thinks.
Yeah, people's opinions.
And the reality is this, Ollie, they have opinions of you no matter what.
And you decide to wait.
You decide to wait. Why would I give a room full of people I don't know and I'll never see an opinion over whether I can get up and talk about how great my wife is in a certain aspect of life, like I did last night? Why would I not share that story? Because 2 people might think I used the wrong context of a verb.
It's weird, right? Like I feel like part of it is innate because I think about little kids. And even little kids, when you're like, speak up, you know, they're all shy, they don't want to talk to someone they know. So I don't know, but what I do know is practicing getting into fear and moving into those things that you're afraid of makes you much better. I still feel a little bit of fear when I get up and talk in front of everyone, in front of anyone, but because I've done it so much, it's a lot easier now.
Because you're practicing it,
right.
You're handling it, and you're moving forward. And then that momentum carries to the next thing in life. Oh, you're not afraid to challenge yourself physically by doing mixed martial arts. Great, let's move there. And then, you're not afraid to pitch your business. Let's move here. Right? They're all fears.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start addressing fear in one area, you're gonna find that a lot of the other things that were scary really aren't that bad.
Right. Fear is dear. Dear fear.
I don't know about that, but let's do it, right?
I love
let's
some
embrace fear. Yeah, let's quit trying to live a life where we're not afraid of anything. Or we're afraid of everything, we don't do anything.
So we got some homework, or not homework.
Purposeful practice. And we got to change that up, because here's what we don't want. We don't want people dreading, like, I got homework, No, you have purposeful practice. So apply this to you guys. Like, I hope you find us entertaining. I hope you like our stories. I hope you like the dialogue, but let's grow together. This is more than 2 guys sharing a story and our journey, because we're learning from each other and we're learning from you, and we hope that continues, but it only happens if you're submitting your homework, if you're participating and you're really committed to getting that most purposeful life, because time's short.
Yeah.
And all of us have a return ticket that we don't know when that date's going to come. It would be a shame if it was tomorrow and we didn't get to all the stuff we thought we were going to do next week. So let's quit putting it off and let's get going in that purposeful life.
Practice.
It's the only way to get better.
Practice. All right, so practice for the week. First part of practice is to list what fears are currently holding you back and choose the biggest one, the biggest fear. Second part is to identify what is the root cause of this fear and what would happen if it came true. To just sit with that worst case scenario, that biggest fear. And third is to email back your findings to onpurpose.official@gmail.com.
Awesome. If you guys are finding value in the podcast, you're enjoying it, please do us a favor. Give us a rating on iTunes or Spotify. We'd love some comments on YouTube. Let them know we're out here and we're coming for that top spot. If you've been paying attention since day one, we're on the 2nd page of iTunes now, which means we're moving up pretty quick, and it's all because of you guys. So please give us a rating, share it with a friend. That's really all we ask. You don't hear any sponsors. We haven't sold you anything. We're not interested in selling you stuff, but we are interested in continuing to create this purposeful movement. So if you can give us a rating and share this, we'd be very grateful.
Yes, we would. Yes, we would. Think of it as the way you compensate us. Just a little like, review, share.
There you go. All right, team. Remember, life is far too short to live any other way than on purpose. So we will see you all next week with that purposeful practice.
Practice.
And let's go.
Talk about